All right, guys, so welcome back to the channel. Today we are on third gen content. We are going to be doing the Fass titanium series 165 gallons per hour no drop kit that they've had. I purchased this in I think about the middle of March, and I've been kind of avoiding it. I actually wanted to do my steering linkage stuff. That's going to be an upcoming video, but I'm missing one of the ends to the drag link. I've emailed them, so we're going to see how good their customer service is. I don't fault them, things happen, but we're going to see how this goes. So anyway, we're going to get into doing the lift pump. My gas gauge isn't even reading right now, it's just laying on empty. So plus I've been wanting to get this box off the counter. I've had it for 3 months. We haven't had a chance to install it. It needs used anyway. But this is the box that I got. Ignore all that. So I've unpackaged everything there over on my other bench. But here is both of the filters. There's the pumps. There's the the brackets. There's the pump. You are going to need a 3 3/4 hole saw. Here is the hose that's provided. I kind of wish this would have been black. Isn't a big deal. There's a wiring harness. There's all the fittings that you'll need. Here's the sump and the little washer that's involved. So I'm going to see what else is in the box. And remember, you have 30 days to do the warranty on this. I believe it's lifetime warranty as well too. So I went ahead and filed the warranty already, but you want to make sure that you'll do that. Same thing with Apex. I think you have 90 days to do that. I did that too already. So anyway, let's get into the install of this, and we'll see how much gas is. Actually, let me show you the gauge. So give me 1 second, get my keys, and I'll show you what's in the tank, and then I'll show you how much actually comes out. This truck's filthy too. So there you go. It's that kind of empty. Yeah, there's the light. So we're gonna see how much is actually in the tank, but let's get into the install. All right, guys. So before we started getting into the install of this, there's a few other things I want to do to this truck this year. Obviously, have to get tires for those. Those things are shot. I still have to do the valve adjustment to this, and I'm actually working with another company. I don't want to say their name yet. They might be sending us a fuel bowl delete for this, which will be perfect to go with all of that stuff. So she is getting a little bit of love, but I did want to show you the install for this Fass. However, there is no paper copy. It is all digital. So in order to see this, you're pretty much going to have to go online. I can actually tag the link in our comment section below once this actually posts, but I can't unfortunately show you a physical copy. So what I can do though, as I work through the digital copy, I can show you what is needed and what steps you have to take. So I looked at it a little bit last night. This is a different day. Stuff came up, I didn't get to finish on it. It looks like you pretty much have to start with the wiring part. So eventually you're gonna have to hole saw it, but for right now I think you have to put a fuse in. Let me look at the instructions again and we'll get into it. I don't want to just guess. So there's everything I need. There's the fuel filters, ignore all that mess. But yeah, we're gonna get into this. So another thing before we do that, me and my brother were also looking at there's a stroker kit that you can do for the CP3, which kind of really piqued both of our curiosity a little bit. So I think that may be an upcoming video. But first, after the stuff that I do have, these have to happen. I'd like these on before the end of winter. I wasn't planning on buying anything yet, but good deal. So anyway, let's get into this install. All right, so step one of their harness, well, actually the instructions, but use dielectric grease. We're going to be installing this relay right in there and sliding the relay cover on. And there is where is it at? Right there, a spot to put a 10 amp which is right there, fuse. So let me go ahead and grab the dielectric grease, and I might be able to set you up on a tripod. That way you can kind of watch. Not that any of the step is hard yet. All right, guys, so later on in the video clip, of course, we go back and edit. I still need to touch up the wiring. I'm gonna fix this part of the video though, because the next part that you're about to watch shows the incorrect placement of the 10 amp fuse. So disregard everything I say about where the 10 amp fuse goes. It goes right in here. I don't really know why. I decided that I would put it back there. It actually does fit in that is the lift pump harness that plugs directly in, but ignore that. The fuse does not go inside there. It goes in here. We make mistakes too. So I'm gonna finish this video up and get it posted for you guys. Okay, so like I said, there is a 10 amp fuse in here. There also could be dielectric grease somewhere, which I haven't found that part yet. Honestly, not worried about it. I have my own. The kit is supposed to include that. So anyway, up to this point, we're gonna go ahead and undo that. Way too much. Hold on, let me grab a rag. Okay. And again, that's all it is. Should just go down straight into there. And then same thing with, I'm actually gonna take, no we're not. Okay. And then this should go like that. Let me check on the instructions first before we put that all the way in. I want to make sure that that cover doesn't go on first. It shouldn't though. Okay, so it was correct. The part of the harness that has the orange connector, go ahead and put the fuse in there. This just snaps in, make sure it is nice and secure. And then this cover goes, wipe some of the excess dielectric grease off. This goes down on it like this. And then, there we go. So pretty much like that. That's just the cover. So next part of it is the eye hooks for your battery terminals. So go ahead and strip both of these off. And then let me go ahead, I'll have to pause the video a minute. I'm gonna crimp these on, and then you're supposed to run this harness next to the frame rail. This part goes back to where the initial fuel tank is. This plugs into the harness. I have to see actually which one plugs into what, but there's two connectors here. One's gonna piggyback off the other one pretty much to install this. So the only hard part about this is routing it in a way that it's nice and clean and neat. And then after we get that installed, it pretty much looks like at that point we have to start working on the pump itself, which is back there. So let me at least get these crimped on. I'll kind of show you how I run mine, and then of course you can run it however you want. Related but unrelated to this video, this is a power distribution block. I'm going to show you here in a minute as far as why I want to eventually use this. It's not going to be a today video. I might actually make a separate video, but I feel like too many things are going to the negative terminal, and I feel like this would be easier to diagnose if there was a problem, and it just cleans up wiring some. It's a problem with older trucks when you run wiring for stuff like, I believe my headlights are going there, and my reverse camera's going there, and there's a few other things that are going to the terminal, and I'm just trying to get stuff cleaned up. Okay, so full transparency of this video. Like I said, I want to clean this up because I have some extra wires and I don't like how some of them are run. Whenever you tighten stuff down, kind of distorts a little bit. It's ugly looking. So anyway, I need to do something about the EGT probe there. Anyway, we're gonna run it down along the frame rail. I'm not gonna film this underneath. Pretty much run it however you want to make it clean. But I'm gonna run it back to the tank, and I will show you on top of the tank where we need to unhook the connector. It is going to live in here. So now would also be a time if you want to clean up your frame any. Mine's really not that bad. There's a little bit on there, but I'm gonna leave it as is. So whenever this does get a bed, because I have bubbles there, the other side's worse, and if you can tell, this bed is beat to hell and back. I'll clean the frame up more, but for right now, just run the harness there, connect the wires to the terminals. Let me check. I believe obviously the red should be positive, but let me check in their instructions, and then I'll show you what you need to do up underneath here. As I was saying, red is positive, green is the negative. Also, really wish I would have got alpha tails to match the headlights. It's a story for another day. Anyway, let me crawl under here. Let me get this all finished up. Back to the tank. I'll show you. I need zip ties. So it's not going to be completely secured. I'm probably going to use some of these white ones just as a temporary fix. And then once my brother gets here, I don't know if it's happening today or not, I'll cut the white ones and put the black ones in place. That way you won't be able to see it underneath. Before I crawl under there, that is the dielectric grease that they do provide. I'll hold on to that. Here's zip ties. Gonna wait to use those until, I still might use my white ones temporary just to hold the cable up out of the way so I can kind of get an idea of where it's supposed to be. Whenever you are mounting the harness up underneath there, make sure you mount the relay in a way that is upright. So if any water does get in your engine bay, it doesn't get up in the connector and cause any kind of corrosion. So we're gonna go ahead and mount that. Same thing with the fuse, make sure it's not in the way of anything. Let me finish running this. We're almost to the point of the rear tank. Okay, so once you get it routed underneath the vehicle, however you want, like I said, I still have to tidy this up. I'm probably gonna have excess from this loom, so I'm gonna have to find a hiding spot for it in a nice, neat way. Anyway, I'm gonna show you where this is, but there's no way that I'm gonna be able to actually physically be able to film. So this looks like it has the same safety connector that the factory one has on it, which you'll have to pull out. This goes on the fuel pump that sits inside the tank. This one goes, the factory harness plugs into this, and then once you get your pump mounted, the two wires that are on the pump itself will go over top of this fuse. So the hardest part of this job really is just making sure everything's tidy. It's a little time consuming, making sure stuff's neat, out of the way. It's not gonna get rubbed. Remember, if any part of this harness gets damaged, the truck won't be able to run. That's all the power going to it. So anyway, let me show you underneath here where you have to look. It is on the other side of the filler neck. So let me see if I can get a flashlight in there. All right, hold on 1 second. Sorry about this. All right, so you can barely see the connector. The two fuel lines running there. The connector goes, it's right there in the middle. So that's what's gonna have to be plugged in. All right, so we're up to the point of where the connector is off the tank. Remember, there's a little red clip. If it's sitting right there, the red clip needs to go out. If it's anything like mine, it's probably never been off, it's dirty. You really got to fight it with a screwdriver. You have to go in between there and around the filler neck. There was a little harness that I moved to make it a little bit easier, and then you got to push on the clip and kind of pull it at the same time. Terrible, hurt my arm. Anyway, that part's done. So I was going to mount it there. Now that is away from everything. I came through the frame. There's a Cummins right there down up the road. Anyway, I was going to, actually here, let me show you this. So as you, well, that might be as good as you're gonna get. So it is unconnected unhooked right there. Anyway, I was going to try to run it up through there and then go up on top of the tank. I actually might reroute it back down through there and go on top of the tank and bring the harness up. Might try to do that off camera real quick. You don't really need to see that part. This part's optional. You do whatever you want to make it as clean as you want. So I'm gonna try to shoot for on top of the tank. And then of course, you know, you'll be able to zip tie it to stuff to make it clean. Anyway, let me try to do that, see how I wanna do that. But like I said, this harness here, that front one with the red safety hook goes on the tank. The factory plug goes there, and then once you actually get the pump in, you'll have to put the pump plug on there. So like I said, those are zip ties that are temporary until I figure out how I want to mount all this. Sorry for the really bad visual. I don't even know if you can see it. That's the harness that I pushed down. No, you can't, everything's in the way. Anyway, I went above the tank. There's a little tiny bit of a cubby underneath of the cab and the mounts. I'm gonna clean this all up with a little bit extra wire, but this is the wire that actually goes into the pump. And I like this routing much, much better. So you route it however you want. This is the way I'm routing it because it mounts back. I can't even see it from where I'm standing. I think it mounts right back in there, I think. Yeah. Anyway, so that part is done. Now we're going to go to the top part. I don't want to say it's done because I still got to tidy everything up. However, next we're going to work on the fittings. And then I believe it's the mounting of the pump next. So let me get this set up in the vice grip. I'll show you what fittings you need and how you have to actually put these different fittings and stuff in there for the fuel lines. All right, we are getting ready to install the fittings. I put the rag on there as optional. You are supposed to put this in a vice grip and put pressure on the sides of the draw tube. So there's the draw tube. Well, sorry, there's the draw tube there. So we're gonna be putting an AN fitting there and also back there. So let me figure out which one I need out of the kit and I'll show you. All right, so here are both of the fittings that go in there. The instructions say to put them in the E port and one of them in the E port. You can barely see it if it will, let me see if I can get it to, there you go, in the T port, in the back side. Rag's optional, I just don't want to scratch it again. So anyway, let me put these on there. Let me make sure it doesn't need any, I don't think this should need any kind of tape or anything. I think they should just go in. Okay, so up next they want you to mount this bracket just like this on there. You have to put the spacers there and, sorry, the other spacer up top. These are the bolts that go down through there. So let me get this mount up. I'll show you what it looks like and then we'll continue with the instructions. All right, so that's how it looks. I don't understand why they couldn't have moved these holes around. I realize it's kind of for your fit, but I feel like they could have made it a little bit bigger. Again, I'm not sponsored by these guys, so you're getting complete honesty out of me on this kit. Anyway, next step, we have to take this bracket. I have to figure out which bolt it is. And I believe that piece right there, hold on. And we're gonna have to mount that. That's a rubber isolator. We're gonna have to mount that to the frame, push the bolt up through. So let me figure out, which bolt I actually need for this and kind of figure out where it is underneath the truck, and I'll show you. All right, so these are the instructions. Like I said, some of these instructions don't quite fit all of them. We cannot do the install of the sump or the lift pump, sorry, yet, because the hole that mine goes up through needs tapped. So there's no threads left in it. It's always been missing a bolt there. Pretty much, you have to see what you do. See how you mount it and all that. Next thing I'm going to do, this shows you, of course, how to mount the filters. We're going to skip this part. You may need to do the parking brake. That is the next step that we're going to do. You'll see here, some of them have a little tiny hole there which shows the center of it. Mine does not have that, so I'm going to try to measure and figure out the best way to go about this. So let's get down there, figure out where the center is, and then we'll start to drill. All right, guys, next day, we are going to finish working on the sump. So this part is going to face just like that. Top part here, you see how it's keyed? This actually goes through the hole that you drilled into the tank, and this flatter spot is going to go into the top. It has a special washer and a bolt to go with it. So of course that's going to screw on. So let me show you what actually came out of there. Now, I will say this, it probably would have been a little closer to here. I drained some of it early because I was worried. I didn't know how much was in there. I've heard there's a decent amount. So I'm not reusing any of this. You can see the plastic shavings and stuff. But anyway, I wanted to show you that. I'm gonna get the deburring tool, get that cleaned up, and I'm gonna show you what it looks like underneath the tank. I believe that bolt is like 22 foot-pounds. Let me check to make sure. But let me get the tool out. I'll show you what that looks like as well. I got mine off, I think, eBay for like $10. So we're getting close to getting this wrapped up. And the only thing I haven't been able to do, like I said, this isn't an all one-day video. You could do this in one day. We're just doing it in simple parts because, like, by the time I get off, or simple parts, small parts, because by the time I get off work, get home, family stuff, we only have a little bit of time to play with this in the afternoon. So I don't really drive the truck that much, so it can sit. But if you can't allow it to sit, if it is your only vehicle, you could do this in one day. So let me get the tool out, show you, and then I'll get you the torque specs on that as well. Okay, so there is some of the mess that I made. Basically, just run this along there. It's a really neat tool. Even for being cheap, it works really, really good. So just get all this stuff cleaned up, reach inside as well, and make sure there ain't any debris or anything like that. Oops, sorry. Make sure there isn't any debris or anything like that. You might have to pick up on the basket a little bit and move it either way. That's probably also how you're gonna get that piece in. So let me put the phone down since I don't have my tripod down here, finish cleaning this up, and I'll show you what it looks like before I put the bottom part of the sump on. All right, guys, so I was wrong. It's actually 12 foot-pounds, sorry. So this is, whenever you're installing this, there is a keyway underneath of the actual lid part to the sump, so make sure that when you're installing this that it's keyed the correct way. I am really, really happy with the placement. It's really level. This tank did not have a little dimple on it, so I had to measure, which I probably did like 6 times. And of course, you can see all the shavings, so I was able to, you can push up on that basket that's in there and get everything out. So when this job is done, I am gonna brake clean everything to make sure that nothing's leaking, but it looks really, really good. Still got to figure out what I'm doing for that bolt. I don't know if I'm going to move the pump for now. I'd really like to just tap it because I'd like to fix that part anyway, but this is probably going to be it for today. I only got to work on it for like 25 minutes. But anyway, like I said, if you had like 3 hours dedicated, you could easily get this all done, but I would say I'm maybe an hour and a half into this job, and if the bolt hole didn't mess up, the pump would already be installed, and then we would, I think the next step is you have to work on the CP3. So probably gonna end this video for today here, but it'll be one continuous video, and hopefully I can work on this some tomorrow. All right, guys, so like I said, we're not able to mount that yet. We got to figure out, we're probably gonna have to tap that hole. I assume it's threaded up through there, but anyway, it's you can push the bolt all the way through. So for tonight, we went ahead and you can actually see the bottom of it. It is draining the fuel. I kind of wish I had a bigger hole. I was not expecting to make that much of a mess. So on this one, you can see the plastic shrapnel. I'm gonna let this finish draining for tonight. This is a multiple day video. I'm in no hurry. I don't drive the truck like that. But anyway, once this is done, we're gonna go ahead and show you how to get the sump in. I got a deburring tool. You wanna clean out any of the shrapnel in the bottom of the tank. And if you haven't did this before, just wait to get covered in fuel. You saw where my gauge was at the origin, or at the starting point of this, so we'll see how much fuel comes out. But stay tuned, we'll finish this video up. This is all gonna be one video for you guys. All right, so it's like 4 days later. Obviously,
same day for you guys, though.
Same day for you guys. Obviously, we're not worried about the timeline of this because it's not my daily. We did finally get the bed tapped. Yeah, that. Anyway, we are getting ready to mount the pump. Here is the hardware to go with it. So let's get the setup under there, and I'll loosely mount it, and I'll show you kind of the orientation of how things go. All right, guys, so quick update. We've got the return and what I assume would be the feed routed. Underneath here, this one goes to the R port, which is like the front one, that is the return. And the back one goes to port T, which I believe is the feed for it. Now we are going to, like I said, I still got to snug everything up. You can see some of the harness there, but we'll tidy everything up here in a minute. Those are really, really not fun to push on. And I will say this, Fass, some of their instructions are not as clear as it should be. We've never done one. It's not that difficult, but you would think for what you paid, the instructions would be a little better. So on to the next step. All right, so up next on this, we're gonna have to remove the banjo bolt off the CP3. It's a 17. This is the one that actually goes in there. And then you'll thread this into that end, and then the hose from the pump will go to that one. I'll show you that here in a minute. All right, guys, as you can tell, there is stuff everywhere. So last bit is done. The only thing left to do is I'm gonna go get, you're supposed to get 5 gallons of fuel before you start this. So zip ties, of course, I gotta clean all this stuff up. This is what the fitting looks like up top there on the CP3. Eventually I probably might get rid of the fuel lines and stuff, and I'm definitely doing a fuel bowl delete. That's for another video. Anyway, not a hard video, or not a hard install. However, I do wish Fass, their instructions were just a little bit clearer. Once we get the 5 gallons in, we're gonna test everything. I don't want to zip tie anything, do anything like that. I will say this one, I might cut this line just a little bit. Let me crawl under here. I gave a little bit of too much line to this front port on here. I'm going to, I don't know if I'm going to cut it for real. I might just zip tie it up out of the way, but I have it running up over the parking brake, down through the frame. Of course, you still got to touch up the wiring. I haven't zip tied anything out of the way. There's that part though. So happy with everything. They're out of the way of everything. Of course, once you zip tie this will also be out of the way of the bed frame. But if you guys have watched up to this part, obviously like, share, subscribe, follow us on Facebook. That's where you get to see all the early releases. We're gonna get 5 gallons of fuel, fill this up, finally get my truck back after about a week. If you're not filming and you're doing this at home, probably 3 hours. Filming always takes longer, and we've done this over probably the course of 4 days or so, but the one day I think I did 20 minutes. I just tightened the sump up. So anyway, 3 hours. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe as always. All right, so I was gonna say we were done with the video. I put 5 gallons in like they have said, but I figured this would be a good time to show you kind of not only how the pump sounds, but how hard it is to start after. I figure this is going to kind of be difficult. So I'm going to cycle the key twice. The pump is so quiet compared to, we had an air dog, but I think it was an early generation one. Nope, I hear fuel already. So there you go. That's why you need to check this. That might have been our fault. I think it was actually from the pump itself. I'm going to turn the key back on. Or not the pump, it was from the filter. Nope. All right, well, might have to take that off, check, see what's going on with it. I don't know if the O-ring got crushed, but I definitely think that's where it's coming from. Okay, so after like 4 failed attempts, we did not have the filters on tight enough. Probably gonna need 2.5 more gallons of fuel, but I did finally get it tightened. So the only thing I do is I have the key on right now. It's a nice sound, not having fuel piss all over the floor. All right, see what happens. Wasn't that bad. I gotta make sure there is no more leaking off of there. I need to make sure it's not leaking anywhere else. But there's so much fuel under here, I'm gonna have to clean it off. No, it's still leaking around the filter. But none of the other filters, none of the other fittings. Alright. So I'm going to finish this video up. Let me shut the truck off. I'm going to finish this video up. It's definitely still leaking a little bit. So basically, I was told wipe the surface down and put a bunch of, not a bunch, but a little bit of oil around the seal and then tighten it back up. So that definitely looks like that fixed my problem. I'm definitely gonna have to spray off underneath the truck. It even got on the door, but at least it's done. So I wanted to show that bonus clip or 2 or 3. But yeah, we're done. So I'm gonna try to do this one more time tonight because I'm tired of smelling like fuel, and then tomorrow should be ready to go.